Okay, so just before we start, I would like to let you know that we have the option of Slido to ask any questions that you might have for any representatives on the panel, or any particular questions you might have in general. So please feel free to log on to slido.com and to type in the respective code, and that'll take you through to our question options. As well as that, if you do have a question or somebody else has submitted a question that resonates with you, please feel free to upvote that question and we'll be able to cover them during the panel. So why don't we start? Okay, so this evening we have 4 lovely panelists joining us from a very diverse range of companies across the tech industry. We've got Selena Fang joining us from Google, and she is a software engineer. We've also got James Bank joining us from Resmed, and he's new production introduction manager. And we've got Chika Nair joining us from VMware as an IT consultant. And finally, we've got Alana Pearsall joining us from Macquarie Business Banking as a Sales Development Associate. So thank you to all of our respective panelists for joining us. I might start off with Selena. Selena, can we have a quick introduction about your career in tech so far, and how you've come to be in the position that you're in today?
Yep. Hi, everyone. I'm Selena. I am currently working in Google as a software engineer. So yeah, I graduated from University of New South Wales, so might be uni mates with many of you. Yeah, so my responsibility in Google is to write software for supporting the Google's production network. The production network in Google is a massive continent-spanning, board-spanning network that serves many of the Google's products like YouTube, Google Cloud Computing, storage, etc., and Google Search, of course. Yeah, so, and also like connecting data centers together. So we write softwares to help maintain and plan for the future network that we might all use. Yeah, so I've been in Google for a while, and yeah, happy to join today's panel.
Great, thank you so much. James, would you like to introduce yourself and let us know a little bit about your background?
Yeah, absolutely. Look, firstly, yeah, thanks very much. I'm really interested in the intersection of technology and other industries, in this case, with medicine. And so that for me, that's been really the drive for me, like for my passion to go to Resmed and to actually work on products that are going out to patients and improving their lives. But then technology, it cuts across so many industries now. Obviously, it's massive and will continue to grow. And so I don't know, I'm in this space now, but interested to see where I go next.
Yeah, definitely. Chika, would you like to introduce yourself?
Yes, of course. Thank you. And, thank you for having me here today as a panelist as well. As you mentioned, my name is Chika, and I'm actually a graduate from UTS. So I graduated last year with a Bachelor of Business and Science in IT, and I majored in finance and data analytics. And I'm currently working as a graduate associate consultant at VMware. And, a lot of people must be thinking, like, who is VMware? Well, basically, VMware is a software company that specializes in cloud computing and in virtualization. And in my current role, I am training to work with enterprise companies, basically to present them with solutions that our software can provide them, whilst taking their infrastructure into consideration as well. So yeah, that's just a bit about me.
Great, thank you so much. And Alana?
Hi everyone, thank you so much for having me. Super excited to be here. So I am a Sydney Uni Commerce Honours graduate. So I majored in marketing and statistics. Sorry, it's been a bit of a long day, and was really a little bit sort of unsure at uni about whether that combination was going to be very useful. But since uni, I've worked in consulting. I've worked for a technology, sales company. So was advising tech CEOs on how to grow their businesses. and I've also worked at Amazon and now Macquarie Bank. So very excited to be here today and to answer all the questions that you have.
Yeah, definitely. So thank you so much to all of the panelists that have introduced themselves. As we can see so far, a diverse range of backgrounds, and as well as that, a diverse range of experiences so far. I might head back to Chika for this question, just to kick us off. Chika, would you like to kind of speak on your recent experience? What made you want to pursue a career in technology or something oriented in the space of tech?
Well, basically, as I mentioned, I majored in finance and IT, and I actually was originally thinking of going to finance. And then when I worked in that industry for a bit, I was kind of like, is this something that I want to do forever? And so I started exploring different options. And one of them was I got to intern at a nonprofit organization called Code Club for a bit in uni. And that was a really eye-opening experience for me because I got to see little kids learning how to code. So kids from ages like 5 and above to ages 13, and little girls and little boys. And that wasn't an opportunity that I had when I was younger. And so I thought to myself, if they can learn it and they can do it, then I think I can too. And so I started looking more into technology and being more interested in that. And then, yeah, that's why I kind of pursued this career.
Yeah, definitely. Sounds like having access to some of those opportunities around coding really led you to that path of being open to opportunities in tech. Selena, is that something similar in your experience, or did you find that tech is just something that you were always inclined to go for?
Yeah, I guess I'm just very interested in thinking about questions logically and trying to put them down in a logical statements, and then that eventually led to coding, I guess. Yeah, I guess for me it just seems like a very natural path. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. Alana, I know that you've got experience and you've had experience in the consulting space before, and like Chika have also might have dabbled into the finance or the statistics space. What is it about tech that's different to those types of industries or those types of careers?
Yeah, 100%. Great question. I mean, for me, it's not about money, but I think at uni you sort of finish and you're like, gosh, I can't wait to get a job and everything like that. So for me, it wasn't necessarily guided by what my studies were, but guided by what I thought would be the biggest growth area. So obviously with what was going on, with what's still going on with the unicorns and the Australian tech scene certainly growing and everything like that, I thought it was a really good place to position myself as a female, and to really gain that experience and knowledge within the industry itself. But I would say, and I hate saying this, but my degree probably wasn't as relevant as I had hoped. Well, at least the statistics part. Marketing's certainly become a lot more important on the technological sort of age and era, and screen-based working from home trends and forced lockdowns that we're all in at the moment. But yes.
Yeah, definitely. I think, just by even observing some of that growth in the recent industry, you can definitely see why those opportunities would be attractive. And James, I know that you use that intersection between engineering and medical science to find your groove. Would you say that tech was something that you went into straight away, or something that just naturally fell into your hands?
I think, look, I think growing up, I was fairly sure that tech was what I wanted to do, although I did have a little... I guess I diverted for a little while and did consulting for a little bit before going back into more of a deeper tech role. For me, I think other panels have already, I think Alana in particular just mentioned there that it's such a big area of growth, and I think that definitely factors into some of those plans. As you're looking forward, you can see that a career in tech is going to be very diverse, and there's going to be a lot of opportunity over your career. So
yeah, definitely. And I can see that in your role at the moment, you're in new production and introduction. You're a new production and introduction manager. So could you tell us what that role actually involves?
Yeah, good question. I think that I'm probably representing more of the deep tech side of things here than maybe more of the tech, which is, so at Resmed, we make sleep medicine devices. So really, we treat a lot of sleep apnea and non-invasive ventilation. So people who need a lot of help breathing while they're sleeping, mostly. So for me, right now, I work in our manufacturing part of the business where we're actually taking new product designs and then we're taking them through. So we're developing the manufacturing processes to actually get them produced and out to the market. So that's my role. I have a team of engineers that work very, very hard on building these new processes to get the products out. But I guess in that though, within Resmed, we have we're like a very large tech company as well now, right? We're now I think the world's largest connected medical device company in the world, like bigger than your big like Medtronics and Boston Scientifics as well. So we've got a lot of medical devices out there. We've got a huge amount of data we don't know what to do with. Well, we're figuring that out. And so a very large tech presence now here in Australia and across the US.
Yeah, definitely. So Selena, I want to jump to you because I know that James has been working on in the medical side, especially with delivering new product into the healthcare space. But what about your role? What's something fascinating that you've been working on at the moment?
Yeah, as I mentioned, I am working on tools to support the Google network. Yeah, I think it's really interesting because I get to see this massive production network that we normally won't be able to see or understand outside. It's really interesting to see how like the technology nowadays are getting into a massive the network is now transporting a huge data across every second. Yeah, it's like we build huge data centers in different continents that I won't be able to imagine before I joined the company. So I get to see like a really big scale data now, which is really interesting for me, and I really enjoy working in this area because of this. Yeah, I think network itself, it's really the way to go in the future. We are going from 4G to 5G, and we probably will be even better in the future. And this all relies on like fiber network, and building the network is really important for the whole world. Like Google search and YouTube. YouTube is actually the second biggest search engine in the world, just FYI. So yeah, it's things we use every day, and it's really interesting to see how it all works on the back, I guess.
Yeah, definitely. And especially that interest. And I know that both James and yourself and Alana has mentioned that tech is a leading tech, and the availability of data analytics and big data helps you to kind of change the world in different areas. But traditionally, we haven't seen many women enter this space, or we've seen very, I guess, specialized roles in this area. And I wanted to touch on, especially what we're here covering today, is the importance of diversity in some of those big tech roles. Not just diversity in terms of demographic factors, although we know that that's important, but also diversity of background. And even here on the call today, we've got a diverse range of degree backgrounds. But as a woman going into tech, did you ever face any barriers, for example, or any types of thoughts or anything that might hold you back? Or were you always, at least in your experience so far, having that path open to you?
Is it for me, the question?
Yes.
Yeah, thank you for the question. Yeah, I guess for me, I don't really see like a huge barrier in front of me. I mean, I think companies do encourage this concept of diversity, and in fact, actually in Google, we have this compulsory study every year to do. So I think big companies really encourage having a diverse gender or race or from different backgrounds, employees from different backgrounds to join the company. So for me myself, I graduated from Sydney and I've look for a job. I went into the tech industry. I don't really see huge problem actually in front of me. I mean, maybe there are like concerns, but I guess it's not really that big a deal.
Yeah.
Maybe there were some like stereotype concepts that we might have, but really like interviewers from big companies, they do make sure that we don't have this like unconscious bias when we are looking for employees. So I think it's not really a big problem.
Yeah, absolutely. Alana, I can see that you've been nodding for most of the time. What's your experience been like with Macquarie so far in terms of in terms of that diversity?
Yeah, great question. Thanks, Paulina. I mean, look, it's going to be a long time until we do see, I guess, this 50-50 ratio that everyone seems to be throwing out. I've actually had the privilege of speaking to Shamara, so the CEO, and she got asked some really interesting questions the other day about what she thinks about the gender pay gap, and that was quite insightful. But it's quite clear that unless there is, I guess, enough people following the same or pushing the same initiative, that it just gets deprioritized. And I think a lot of people for a long time have been really scared about opening this gender pay cap debate or idea, because it is such a widespread, or it has such widespread implications. But look, to be truthful, Macquarie, 30% of the junior levels at Macquarie, or the entry levels, are female-based. And in terms of diversity, I think a really important point to note is that sometimes it's actually not about getting more and more different types of people into these kinds of organizations, but it's actually about how you view diversity yourself and how you approach diversity. So me, myself, I know that as you get to middle management, that ratio or that percentage drops to about 10% females in middle management, and then above that it's about 6 to 8% in that top tier. So for me, actually, the challenge is not around diversity, it's actually around tenure, and I guess really having a hard think about yourself and what you sort of perceive as diversity, and how you respond and relate to it. Because I think everyone's different. It doesn't matter whether you're female, male, whatever it is. It's how you respond and how you react and how you treat others. And Macquarie is very big on that, like honesty, integrity, and accountability. That's 100% every day my work comes through.
Yeah, definitely. I want to ask Chika about her experience as a graduate, in terms of that ratio or that balance of diverse individuals within the group. What has been your experience?
So when I came in as a grad, we did have a big mix of girls and boys. But when I went into my team specifically, because it is a pretty tech team, that's when you do see the ratio drop a bit. And I don't think it's because anyone wants it to be that way. I think that's just how it's kind of been in the industry for a while. But I don't see any like anyone being hateful or kind of trying to push me out. Instead, it's been the complete opposite. People have been so supportive and encouraging. And I think that's something that I didn't recognize myself in uni, like that I would get the support that I wanted, even if there weren't as many, women to kind of look up to in this role that I wanted to go into. So that's kind of why I would like to see more girls in the team, just so other girls from, uni and stuff can kind of be like, okay, well, if they're over there, then I can kind of follow in that path too. But yeah, like being one of the only kind of girls in the team hasn't really detrimented me in any way. Like instead, all my mentors, my managers, my colleagues, they provide me so much support. I can ask them anything I want, whenever I want, and they're very open to helping me. And I think that's kind of more what it should be about like the culture of the company, rather than if you have 50% male, 50% female. Should be about everyone being included and feeling, kind of inclusive. So yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. You've made some really good points, and together with Alana and Selena, their experiences with the companies themselves have been quite positive. But there seems to be something a little bit about culture, or putting yourself forward, or feeling additional support, or having to look up to role models. That might be a space where we need to continue to work on, and maybe that starts with having conversations at the graduate level to get individuals involved in those areas. I want to pass the question over to James. James, what's your experience about diversity in general at Resmed, and whether your company has anything to support different diverse groups coming in and working?
Yeah, look, I think the perspective I have on, obviously, talking about gender diversity here, I mean, I represent, probably the most privileged, demographic on the call, I would say, without a doubt. So I guess, but my perspective is still, I've seen a number of instances throughout my career where you do see drop-offs throughout. I think what Alana was saying and others was saying, people coming, women in particular, coming in to graduate positions, there might be a pretty good mix there, but they tend, there's a drop-off, or there's something going on, I guess, as they progress through. In general, though, diversity, clearly the products that we build at Resmed, are going to a very diverse population. We sell to 160 odd countries around the world. So diversity in the way that we design our products, deliver our products, and service our products in those regions is really important. So diversity for us is critical in order to really meet the expectations of our customers. I think more, I mean, that's very much on the customer side and what makes your product better, and but also just as an employer, right? Like you want if you don't have a culture of diversity and belonging and inclusion in your business, you're really limiting yourself when it comes to bringing talent into the business. So clearly very important. I think Resmed has been doing, they're on a journey, I think, just like most businesses, but doing quite a lot, from, supporting new parents better than we used to, to unconscious bias training, et cetera, et cetera. There's more, and still a lot more to be done, I would say.
Yeah, definitely. And you make a really good point about the importance of diversity, not just in terms of having an inclusive workplace, but the outcomes for the end user. When you have those opinions and those different perspectives during the product development stage, then you're able to target those users. And for global companies like Google, that's really important when you've got multiple users who are from diverse backgrounds as well. We've had a question come through, which is a little bit different. And it's more around the experience of working just in general. And I might go back to Alana for this one. If you identify as being part of a diverse group, have you ever felt any imposter syndrome related to that?
100%. My gosh, like huge. Like, yes, but like I said before, I think it's really how you react and respond, and really feeling that, you're all still very young. Like, I mean, guys, like I have literally had 5 or 6 different jobs since I've left uni. And I really, really just love the fact that I've had enough diversity of experience to learn what I do like and what I don't like. So, I mean, I say to Evelyn all the time, Evelyn, my mentee from now, don't worry if you don't know. Like, it's about learning yourself, learning what you like, learning what you don't like, and you'll get there in the end. But imposter syndrome is something that, 100% is a part of your working life, but you've got to put it on yourself. You've got to set goals. You've got to get better, and you've got to work really hard to be the best you can be, and just focus on your own race. Like, of course, people are going to have more money or get promotions faster or get gigs at different companies that you've been looking at for a while. But it's really just about concentrating on yourself. And I think I, for a long time, was kind of not running my own race. And, I just feel so happy now, because now I'm really focused on what I want, what I need to do to get there. And I work at that, and I'm motivated by that, as opposed to worrying that like I might not be as good or as whatever as someone else. So, yeah.
Yeah, and just touching on that, as you kind of had all of those diverse experiences and moving into middle management, did you find that imposter syndrome kind of crept back in as you moved into different positions, or did you find that the more experience you got, the more confident you got?
Yeah, I'd actually say, you know what, the more experience I have had, the more confident I have become. And an organization like Macquarie really does celebrate that diversity of thought. So coming in, I kind of thought like, oh, it'll be a while until I meet the directors or be in meetings with strategic decision making. But because I've done statistics, because I come from a farm, like, I've worked in the grain industry, like I've been an Uber driver, I've run my own business, I've written a thesis on ethics. Like the more stuff that you can do, I just feel like the richer like your personality and yourself as a person will be. So the more the merrier, I say. 100% don't stay in the same spot.
Absolutely. Selena, did you want to add to that? What has been your experience? Have you ever faced imposter syndrome?
I actually really agree on what Alana said. I think, the more experience I have, the more confidence I have. I mean, sometimes you just have to, live through the hard times and, just learn from it and just get better at like communicating, better at solving problems, try to reduce the risk of problems happening, I guess. But really just learn from experience. Like you can't really learn everything from a book. You just have to practice and just fail and just learn from it. And that's fine.
Yeah, absolutely. Chika, I know that you're still you're currently in a graduate role, so you might not have had those experiences to build that confidence. But would you say that some of the stuff that you do at uni might be able to build that sense of self as well?
Yeah, like when you were talking about imposter syndrome, I actually, my first few months at VMware, I felt very out of place. And I spoke to like one of my managers about it, and I was just kind of like, I don't really know like how I feel a bit like lost at the moment. And she was the one who came to me and was like, oh, you're feeling imposter syndrome. And I was like, oh, is that a thing? Yeah. And then when she kind of talked me through it, she was like, everything gets better if you just kind of follow the knowledge. Like if you just follow the will to learn, and then your experience will come, and then your confidence will come with that. And I think that's definitely happened over time that I've been here. Like been almost like 7-8 months in VMware now, and like if I look back at when I first started, it's so different, because now I love learning. If I make a mistake, I'm not that scared anymore, because I've had so many people back me up and be like, it's okay, that's how you learn. And so so I think it gets better as everyone else is saying, once you gain that experience.
Yeah, absolutely. James, compared to 8 months, 11 years, have you seen a difference in yourself?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I think it's a good question actually, because it got me thinking a little bit about a few things I've been going through recently. But for me, my personal experience has been that when I started out in my career, maybe a little bit different to what Chika just described. I think I probably was very confident coming into my career. Like I was, overly confident, and this is, people are laughing. But what I think it's very much that sort of competence, type relationship over the course of your career, where as you become more competent, or certainly in my case, there was a phase there where you start to realize, oh, hang on, I'm not actually very competent, and then that can really affect your confidence. And so then that's when you can start doubting your abilities and things like that. And I think everybody goes through that throughout their career. I think it cycles as they change jobs and change careers. You will cycle through that. I think it's a part of it.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, and I think from your own experience and from the experience of the other panelists, it seems that there is opportunity in the tech industry to flourish. But we've had another question come through about, what might be some of the misconceptions that people have about your role or in the industry in tech as well? Because as we can see, there's supportive individuals, we've got supportive programs available. But we still need that uptake of diverse groups into the tech industry. So what might be some of the misconceptions? James, I might start with you. Have you observed anything or have you heard anything that might not be as true of the tech industry as you might think?
Misconceptions. I think from again, just on my experience in my current, well, I've been at Resmed for 11 years, so let's use that. But I think maybe one of the misconceptions for me has been around the participation of different diverse groups into the business, certainly at junior levels. I don't know. I need to maybe think a little bit more about that. I haven't.
That's okay. We can come back. Alana, have you heard anything?
Yeah, you can see me moving around, getting ready to say something. Yeah. Gosh, I mean, it's hard to sort of condense it all into one. And I think being a female, I don't know whether we just naturally doubt ourselves a little bit more, but I feel like we do sort of question our environment and whether we do fit and whether we do have, supporters and everything like that. And what that really comes down to is the fact that we're all humans and we're group mentality. We grew up evolving in a pack, really. So I think one of the biggest misconceptions in the tech industry is that it is diverse and inclusive because, I just find that there's been a lot of men and I don't want to profile or anything, but it can be quite difficult when you're in meetings to get your voice heard. And I speak very loud, so that's kind of awkward. But I just kind of think that tech still has a bit of a stigma attached to it, and it is not very kind of female oriented at the moment. And guys, I'm sorry, I'm not sure what your companies are like. But this is just going off the experience that I've had. And I think one of the biggest challenges to do with that is just, women taking interest in tech. I never really had many female colleagues compared to male colleagues. So I don't think it's the men themselves being let's keep this as a boys' club or anything. I think there's just not as many applications or as many applicants. So I think it's just a natural kind of, result. But I wouldn't be scared off by that. I mean, I'm really small, I'm blonde, kind of the perfect sort of disaster recipe. But it's been perfect. I've had really good experiences, but I think a big thing is just being honest. You really, really need to be honest. You need to be honest with yourself. You need to be honest with your manager. You need to be honest with your colleagues. And if something's not right, speak up. Don't sit there and just nod your head or whatever it is. Stick up for your colleagues, stick up for yourself, and don't back down, because people will take advantage of you if they can, or if they see a weakness. So be strong is what I'd say.
Interesting, really interesting points. I think that when we loop back into having those opportunities where you might upskill to get ready for the tech industry, or you might even hear about the tech industry, it really goes back to the university experience or the people that you hang out with. And if you haven't got female role models who are entering the workplace, then 100%. You might be the first one there. And that really takes me back to Chika and her experience about having those opportunities early on to get those female applicants in, so that you do feel part of a pact, or part of a support network that's going through that journey with you. Chika, has your experience? Did you find that many females were in your cohort studying, or even joining some of the co-curricular activities?
Yeah, so actually, when I was in uni, I wanted to major in networking, and I decided against it because there were just only men, and I was like one of the only girls going into it, and I was like, oh my god, no, I don't want to do that for the next like 2-3 years. I'm like, because you feel like you don't have the support, and like, how are you going to get through this degree without like support around you? And I think coming to VMware, that's where I kind of learned like. And that's another like misconception, I think, like that you can't learn everything or you have to have like a degree in something to be able to do it. Yeah, and when I came into the industry, that's when I realized I was like, okay, I can now learn networking when I felt like I couldn't. Now I can do it, and now I have the opportunity to do it, and I have all the support around me. My managers, my mentors, directors, like at any level, I can go and ask for resources, and they'll provide it to me. Especially tech companies, they're so open to giving you materials for learning and everything. So yeah, I feel like that's kind of been my experience like in uni, but it's kind of shifted when I've moved into the industry.
Yeah, absolutely. I think what you mentioned here is a real shift in terms of when you ask for support, that's when you get support. And I think that resonates with Alana when you say that you need to speak up, because there are opportunities for support and there are opportunities to learn. For example, I come from a HR background, but have recently discovered that there's a program called Codes. So that's really interesting. But yeah, if you ask for support, then support is out there. But sometimes that can feel a little bit isolating if there's no one else in the group that's similar to you. So I think in terms of going forward, maybe a little bit of recommendations coming from the tech industry. Selena, what would you say is needed in the tech industry to support diversity of groups?
I was actually gonna add a bit more to the previous question though. Yeah, I had a quite a positive experience actually coming out of uni and going to actual workplace. So to be honest, like in uni, I was like, I mean, yes, there are not many girls in tech, but surprisingly, when I actually start, working, there are actually more female in the in workplace, and female come from different backgrounds. Yeah, from different age group. Yeah, maybe like they might not have a pure tech or engineering background, but maybe they pick up tech during halfway of their lives. Yeah, and there was actually more like work-life balance than I initially thought. Like that was my misconceptions. I thought it would be like quite hard to actually get used to working in like pure tech production jobs, but actually it was okay. I mean, yeah, there are times for you to actually pick up the knowledge to study and to get used to the tech stack and get used to the company culture. So that was all a lot better than I initially thought. Yeah, I guess that was my a little bit of add-ons to the misconceptions topic we were talking about previously. Sorry, what was the second question?
So what I wanted to ask, and maybe you've already answered it in terms of the flexible working options, or in terms of having time off or structuring your workday appropriately. What do you think is needed to attract diverse groups to tech, or to better support diverse groups in tech? What do you think that we need?
So in Google, we have as I mentioned, we have annual studies to do, just so that everyone are fully aware of this importance of diversity. I guess one thing really important is good communication skills. I mean, I guess working in tech industry, we're probably all talking to. Most of us are probably talking to devices or computers or similar kind of things. And that's what we've learned, right? I think communicating to people is really important. And as Alana said, sometimes maybe our voice can't really get heard very easily. We have to find a really appropriate way of expressing them, or find correct people to talk to, or like find good communication skills and to let our voice heard. I think this is probably the most important thing, I would say. Like other things, I think communication is like the glue to a lot of other components. That's how you make yourself, I guess, have a better life in your workplace.
Yeah, definitely. I think what we've heard so far in terms of a theme is that people are willing to help, and people are willing to, and managers are willing to structure and provide support, but we really need to be the ones to ask for that support. And Alana, I want to pass it over to you. What more do you think that we need to support diverse groups coming into tech?
I think maternity leave and paternity leave is a big one. And I hate saying that because like it sort of seems like the company is, I guess, assuming the responsibility or like having the cost burden put on them. But I think that it would solve like better maternity leave and paternity leave policies, more widespread, not necessarily for longer periods of time, but just I really do think that it would prevent or just decrease the kind of what James was saying about, everyone was saying about just people not sort of continuing on for as long. So I think, personally, like a lot of women that I have met in banking, you see them and they're on these Zoom calls and they've got their babies and they've like, locked down at the moment, carers leave, it's not available, so they can't, they don't have anyone to watch their kids, and it's quite heartbreaking because it's like, it's not that you can't do the job and it's not that you are not doing your job well, it's just that you can't devote 100% attention to your personal needs and personal life. And I think that impacts people when they get to a certain age. But I think earlier on, a really good thing that Macquarie is doing at the moment is called Work Where It Works. So like WIW for short. And that's basically kind of like a mental health initiative that really encourages people to connect at work, because I find like in my role, sometimes I'm on Zooms, back-to-back Zooms all day.
Yeah.
And I'm always talking about business. And I'm like, okay, well, like, how's everyone going? Like, how was your weekend? Like, can we just have like a bit of a laugh sometimes or whatever it is? So I feel like it's really important to get those, leave policies correct, and also just have, not formal policies that are like, oh, you've got to take a mental health day or whatever it is, just actually setting up internal cross-business unit, cross-team sort of connections to even just find people that you resonate more with or connect more with across the company, because you're not always going to get along with your manager, you're not always going to get along with your teammates, and that's just a fact of it. Like, so yeah, that's what I'd say.
Yeah, definitely. So a two-pronged approach there. Looking at the parental leave policies or leave policies in general, and then also facilitating that, I guess, that interdiversity within the workspace as well. James, I want to pass it over to you. You mentioned something about Resmed having those parental leave opportunities. And what that kind of ties into for someone listening from a graduate opportunity is, how do I carve out my path? And what things do I need to take into consideration? So can you speak on the opportunities that are available for support at Resmed?
Yep. Yeah, good question. So Resmed has, just recently, or maybe 2 years ago, we updated our parental leave to make it a lot more progressive. So, something like, I think 20 weeks of full pay for, for whoever the primary carer is. On top of that, I think Resmed has for quite a while has been increasing this, more and more, and particularly with lockdown and COVID, it's been really forced upon you. But flexible working has been a part of, certainly been a part of my work ever since we had our first child. So I've worked from home at least one day a week, for the last six or seven, nearly 7 years. and a lot more recently. That's really important. I think having a culture around flexibility is really important, and making sure that managers and leadership support that. The other thing that I think Resmed's been doing, I think reasonably well, and something we're continuing to grow, is making sure we've got strong mentor programs internally. So we've got the ability for young students to young employees to find mentors within the business. And lastly, I think and maybe a piece, maybe something for people to be thinking about when they're looking for their first jobs, or even second job, third job. Looking at the executive team of the business, and actually having a look at how that's structured, and that I mean, that's been quite a conscious thing. I think Resmed probably only 5-6 years ago was maybe all male board, I would say, and thankfully that has evolved over the last 5-6 years.
Yeah, definitely. So I think from your own personal experience, you found that having that support from the leadership team, it really helps. But it's about having those voices heard at the leadership level to be able to definitely make those opportunities available. So what we've come so far, I guess, or the topics that we've covered so far, is that the structure and the support of the company is really important for individuals considering their personal path and whether they want to pursue a career in tech. And what's also important is who else is in there, and who are the voices that are being heard the most throughout these companies. And one of the questions that we've had come through, which has had a lot of vote, and I encourage the panelists and the respective representatives joining us to touch on this point when we get into our breakout room sessions, which we'll be able to do in the next 5 minutes, is how do you differentiate between being employed for your skills or for being considered a diversity token? So we're thinking quotas, we're thinking anything to introduce major diversity. The other question that's come through that's been really popular, and this is just from your personal experience, is what is the most challenging part of your role? So why don't we hold those 2 questions in mind as we head over to the breakout room sessions. We'll have 3 sessions between our respective representatives, our panelists, and the students that are joining us. For the students that do have that Slido poll open, and I know that it might not be available to our panelists, but it definitely is to the other representatives, have a look through those questions and see if there's any points that you want to touch on and that resonate with you. What we've seen so far in this conversation about diversity in the tech space is that tech is an emerging field where there are opportunities available and the demand is there for diverse work groups. What we need to find is opportunities to better support those diverse groups in terms of first coming on board, having those opportunities beforehand, and then also moving through appropriately in terms of, as Alana mentioned, in terms of tenure, in terms of appropriate leadership support, and in terms of feeling supported when you are faced with imposter syndrome, or you are faced with a little bit of hesitancy. So what I would like to do for now is to thank our lovely panelists, to Alana, Chika, Selena, and James for joining us, and for starting off this conversation, which we'll be able to continue with our respective representatives in the breakout room sessions. So what I'll do now is pass it over to Rachel. As I said, keep the Slido doc open, and we'll continue the conversation through our rounds of networking.
Fabulous. Thank you.
All right. Thanks so much, Paulina, and to all the reps. I really resonated with that note that Chika and Alana made early on about having role models and how much of a positive impact that makes on the careers of women and non-men in tech. And also the point about being able to see other people who are just like you and have had a similar journey to you, like really thrive in tech. And it really makes us believe, like, oh yeah, if they can do it, then why can't I do it, right? I think that's really wonderful. So thank you all for that. Cool. So now I'm sure you'll all have heaps more questions. So I will, so you'll all be able to get an opportunity to ask those questions in the breakout room sessions. And we'll also have an amazing set of industry professionals here tonight. So we have Caitlin Hargraves from FDM, Patty Gilchrist from APAC at Google, Katrina from also Google, Janina from AMP, Vijay from Aginic, Sarabi from also Aginic, and Belinda and Betty from RecordPoint, as well as the panelists we had earlier on. So yeah, once you join the breakout rooms, say hi, introduce yourselves, and as an optional icebreaker, maybe share a bit about why you're studying or working in tech, or why you're interested in tech. But of course, remember, you can all ask your own questions, any that you like. Yeah, so the breakout rooms will be opening in a second. So yeah, enjoy.